I'm going to tell you why there's such a struggle right now for the single mother. One, society does not support single motherhood. There used to be this thing like, oh, you're a single mother, let us help you. Nobody cares anymore. But the biggest thing that people don't talk about is fewer and fewer men are willing to be stepdads.
This is a fact. I remember about 2 decades ago, and back when I was in early 20s, really entering the dating market as like an adult, there was that thing going around. I'm not the stepfather. I'm the one that stepped up. They were pushing that like rock the vote. They were pushing that like it was the next campaign slogan. And I saw a lot of it really in the black community. Back when we were trying to use shame to get men to step into these father figure roles. And, with good reason, they were saying, yeah, these kids need a father figure. And that was before men really had these spaces. These spaces didn't exist where men can gather, kind of talk about their own experiences, where you could learn from the previous generation. Hey, you did this. What happened? That's not to say that that message from elder generation to the newer wasn't passed on, but it was a trickle instead of this open line faucet that we have now in the barbershops, in the basketball courts, in these these male spaces. That message was getting passed on, and it was one of like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it for for any number of reasons. So before we continue, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Trying to get this channel, trying to just grow in general. Let's continue.
One of the biggest family secrets has always been that oldest child does not belong to him. That oldest child does not belong to him. Everybody knows it but the oldest child.
That's just nasty work. Right? That's nasty work. How do you feel about this? This is just nasty. And hopefully we see a push towards mandatory DNA testing so we can eliminate the instances of this. Even if it hasn't happened to you, even if it hasn't happened to some, it happens enough. And I think I've showed a couple of times, or maybe those are in the rotation that are coming up of instances like this, and you don't you don't understand how much it destroys a man. And I think, yeah, today that I might have a video up about that. Maybe like a special thing, just do it later, drop it later this afternoon. Just about like Sean Flood, I believe, 3 kids, all 3 weren't his, belonged to other members of the family. And while that may be an extreme case, this isn't anything new. This isn't anything new, and it's something that sits in the back of a lot of men's heads, sits on their soul, like that fear of raising another man's kid when I was never given the choice whether or not to do that. And those are very, very big things. Passing on a kid as mine, or me looking at you and valuing you and saying it's worth doing this.
And there are fewer and fewer men that are willing to sign up for it. And I do believe it's because of child support laws. And it just takes a lot of money. So please understand that if you become a single mother, you're probably going to most likely raise that child by yourself for the rest of your life. And the men who create single mothers, they hate their single mother mom. So they really don't give a damn about you.
That's an interesting angle to take. I like that he's just being open and forward with it. If you're doing it by yourself, and there's a growing trend of saying he didn't want the baby, but I'm having it anyway, and pretending like this is an easy endeavor. When we have the current administration cracking down and making benefits that you receive more and more stringent, why would you walk into this knowing it's just going to make life harder for you? Just from a purely time management point of view, even if you have the means to do it, it's a harder thing now to sort of navigate just from a time perspective. You don't have enough time to set aside to do this, to do that. Look, if you're rich, then this absolutely doesn't apply to you. And if you're rich, you should probably DM me on the side so we can talk business, i.e., give me money. But for the vast majority of us, this is a difficult premise. You walking in willingly to be a single parent, saying that if you're a single parent now, you're probably going to raise that kid by yourself. That's statistically, that's probably the outcome, probably what we're looking at. We need to have more of a message showing people that this is a difficult life to willingly say, I'm gonna walk into this.
Low key hate her ass. So they're gonna hate you too. The moment you look like, act like, and start talking like her. I keep posting these videos because I hope that I save at least one young lady. Do not have a baby with a man until you have been married to him for at least 2 years. At least.
That's I can get behind that. Right? When you hear good advice, you hear good advice. But people are going to have to now understand that you can't really play that game. Your 20s are for fun, and your 30s is to get married and kids. If you're still going to need another 2 year buffer to really suss out what type of man that is, you're going to have to, kind of push things a little ahead. Maybe your 20s is a time probably you should be finding someone that you can do this life thing with. It's a hard thing to tell people get rid of 10 years of partying and having fun of very little consequence. That's not that's not the way our society is marching forward. If we saw people with very real outcomes of, yeah, this is difficult. This is not there. I wanted to do X with my life. Now I can't do anything but Z. If we had those very real things, instead of showing people the highlight reel, instead of showing what it looks like from the celebrity point of view. You see what it looks like from your actual neighbor's point of view, how they're struggling, how they you don't see when they're crying, you don't see when they're stressing, you don't see when they have to do what they have to do just so their kids can have something. There's there's this other thing going on where a woman was talking about basically how she was used sexually just so she can pay for her kids' school supplies, just for school supplies. This is a very real thing. So why would we want to put ourselves in those positions where we'd have to make those decisions? Let's finish this up.
Least 2 years. Because once you become a baby mama, you will probably most likely die a baby mama in today's society. These men are not for it anymore. They're not. They're not.
Yeah, men. I think we've been paying attention, and I want to speak to it from a point of view where I think men get sort of silence about it. It's one of gratitude. It's one of where you spend your time, your resources, your effort into raising a child, and I know it's not fair, and I know it's really normal, probably more of a human connection thing where you want to seek out your biological parent. You want to know what they're about. There are countless stories of men raising daughters and then the daughter wanting to be given away by the biological father who just so happens to show up later in life. And maybe he needed time to get his stuff together, but here he is. And that connection is real. We all seek to know where we came in every holy text that we have. There's always a call to how the beginning was heralded. We always care. We always matter. It always matters. It just seems to matter more than the decade decade and a half of time that man spent helping raise you. You're there graduating high school or college, and you're shout out to my mom. I couldn't have done it without her. Yeah, except this guy here. Right? There's very little gratitude in that. Then we take it a step further. You're raising a daughter, raising a son. They have a kid, a stepson, stepdaughter. They have a kid. Now you're watching this grandchild who has absolutely no connection to you whatsoever, no biological connection to you. Men often see it as in if they don't have children of their own, this is the end of my line. I'm helping raise someone else who at any point in time can still work to get back into that child's life. Let's That says nothing of what men fear. You really love and get attached to this child, and your relationship with the mom deteriorates. You guys break up, you guys divorce. You have no say. You have absolutely no say. You visitate. No, you have no say. Nothing. So your resources, your time, your love was spent into this and gone. or if you adopt a child and then things, go south, now you can still be a hell for like child support. And men are looking at this and saying, there's always going to be a preference to have your own child. There's always going to be that biological preference. When I say always, I mean most in Maine. Men are going to prefer to have their own DNA looking at them. It there's something magical about that. You can love another child. You can love another child and say I love you just like my own. Maybe, probably. That child there may be something in the back of the head that feels a little different. That's just a normal, I think it's a normal biological imperative. The fact is, men are just saying, not sure, not sure anymore. And I think that's a fair thing. And we're past the point of being able to shame men into saying, well, these kids need a role model. Men are just saying you should have picked better. That's it. They don't care about anything else after that. There's no rejoinder. There's no clap back for that. You should just pick better. Oh, that these men leave you. You should just pick better. That's what they're going to say. And I have yet to hear something good in response to that.